Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the new Slaanesh miniatures and seeing how we can use them for Warcry. With the new Hedonites of Slaanesh miniatures on release for order today, I thought this was the perfect time to take a look at the miniatures in detail and see how we can use them as Warcry fighters. In this video, we'll go through all the new sets one at a time, and then we'll look at the individual fighters and see how we can use them for Warcry and go through their individual statistics and abilities. Once we've done that, I'll put together a warband with the miniatures I think would work really well for Warcry, and I'll also do like 1,000 points and a 1,400 point warband, so if you're going into a campaign mode, then you'd have enough fighters. I'll be getting all the stats and fighter abilities from the Agents of Chaos Warcry supplement book, and this is an awesome book if you haven't seen it already. I've done a video where I go through it all, but this will give you access to all the fighter types for pretty much nearly all of the new miniatures that have been released today. If you play Age of Sigmar and Slaanesh, then today's a great day for you because there's tons of new miniatures out for release. But I also thought this would be cool to make this video in case you want to play them in Warcry, or if you play Warcry, perhaps you'd like to pick up some of these sets and then use them as a warband. So what I've got here, I've got the website opened up, and we'll go through each of the new miniatures that have been released. And then on the right hand side of the screen, I've put together the fighter type cards taken from the Agents of Chaos book. And so we'll go through each of the fighters you get within that set, and then you'll have a good idea of all the options available to you. Okay, we won't go through the Battle Tome and the War Scroll cards. And then going down, we've got Sigvold, Prince of Slaanesh. Now, he's not included in the Agents of Chaos book, which is a real shame, because what a great looking miniature. That's really awesome. But I'm sure you could use him as a substitute, although he is going to come on quite a large base there. So I don't know how that would play in Warcry. Might be a little bit difficult to include him there. It might be good to use him as a kind of figure that your whole warband goes up against. So I don't know how that would work out, but it'd be quite fun to put together some of your own abilities and statistics for him, much like you would go against a monster where your whole warband goes against one heroic figure. That'd be quite awesome. So this one's not included in the book, and neither is this one, the Gluttust Orskolion, Lord of Gluttony. And that's a crazy miniature. It's a huge miniature, but obviously you wouldn't play that in Warcry either. So let's go down to the first one that's included, and this is the Bliss Barb Archers. And so if we flick to the first card, so with these you're going to get a few variations. The first one is the Bliss Barb Archer, and they're coming in at 80 points. They've got their faction rune mark and one extra rune mark for a fighter ability, and they've got a movement of 5, toughness 3, and they can take 8 wounds. And they've got a choice of 2 weapons. So one is the ranged weapon, minimum range 3, maximum 15, can make 2 attacks, strength 3, dealing 1 to 3 on a crit. And then their other up close weapon, a sword or dagger, that's a range of 1, make 3 attack dice, strength 3, dealing 1 to 3 on a crit. So that's pretty normal for this level at 80 points. But let's have a look at the abilities. And so every member of the warband for the Slaanesh Hedonites are going to get a double unrivaled velocity. Add half the value of this ability, rounding up to the move characteristic of this fighter for the next move action they make this activation. Okay, so they've already got 5 movements, so they can get around pretty quick. But adding this in, they're going to be pretty swift on the battlefield there, and especially if you get a 5 or 6, you can round it up to 3. So all of a sudden, your foot kind of fighters are moving up to 8 there, so that's really good. And they've got another one because they've got the 2 different matching abilities, matching rune marks for the ability, and this is a triple called Volley of Tearing Blades. Add half the value of this ability, rounding up to the attack's characteristic of the next attack action made by this fighter, this activation, that targets an enemy fighter more than 3 inches away. Okay, so this is for the ranged weapon, and again we want to be rolling high, so a 5 or 6 is going to get you 3, and you can add that to the attacks characteristic. So that's going to take it up to 5 dice rolls potentially. So that's pretty good. You can do a fair bit of damage there with this. And for an 80-point miniature, to be able to make 5 attacks, even though the strength is low at 3 and it's only 1 to 3 on a crit, that's pretty devastating. So that's really great. That's our first fighter that we can get from this set here. And let's go to the next one. And so this is a leader. So if you wanted to just take in either a group of archers with a leader or use this leader for a warband with other fighters, then this is going to be an option for you. And this leader's quite low for a leader. It's 130 points with a movement 5, toughness 3, and 16 wounds that she can take. And she's got the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and 1 other. And so let's take a look at the weapons. So these weapons are much the same as the Bliss Barb Archer, except we've got a little bit more damage being dealt and 1 extra attack. So the ranged weapon, instead of 2 attack dice, she can roll 3, and instead of 1 to 3 on a crit, she's dealing 1 to 4 on a crit. And the abilities we saw previously, she's going to get both of those, but as a leader, she's also going to get this double called Violence and Excess. A fighter can use this ability only if an enemy fighter has been taken down by an attack action made by them this activation. This fighter makes a bonus move action or a bonus attack action. Okay, so they've had to take an enemy fighter down in this activation to be able to use this ability, and they're not dealing a lot of damage, so once you want to use this, you've got to make sure they're kind of in a position where they are going to take someone down if you're going to weave this into your kind of plan for the battle. But not bad for a leader. That's not a brilliant one, but for only a double to get a bonus attack action with 3 rolls, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all for a double. Okay, so that's the Bliss Barb Archer now, and the Bliss Barb Archer High Tempter. And that's going to be all the fighters we can use from this particular set. And you can see here, I'm looking at the Games Workshop website, so I thought this would be a good way to go through it all. And then we can see the individual fighters there. I'm scrolling in a little bit. So they look awesome. Really great detail on these miniatures. And I've just been starting to play Underworlds, and so using the Slaanesh in the Diachasm set, it's been great to learn a little bit about them. But this set, if you like it, is £31.50. And what I'll do in the description is put links to all the sets we talk about in this video, and I'll put those links to Element Games, where you can save up to 20% discount on all these sets. So they'll be able to deliver those from tomorrow, or from today, the 20th. So you'll be able to order those with Element Games. There'll be affiliate links, but it's not going to cost you anything extra. In fact, you're going to save that 20%. And for every sale made through a link, I'll get a small commission, and that's going to help me develop the channel and do many more videos like this. So thanks for that support, and all those links will be down below. Right, let's go back now and have a look at the next set that's included here in the new release. The next one is the Slickblade Seekers, and these are £42 RRP. And let's have a closer look at those. So these look awesome, really cool miniatures, and I like these kind of mounted troops. They're really great, and I think they're going to be fun to play in Warcry for sure. But let's look at the stats first. So this one is 180 points, and they've got a movement of 10, so you expect that from a mounted fighter. They can take 20 wounds, and they've got a toughness 4, so that's a lot of wounds they can take there. That's really good. And they've got the faction rune mark, so we've seen those fighter abilities for the main one already, but there's going to be some extra here because we've got a couple of different rune marks. One of those is the mounted rune mark, so that won't go towards any fighter abilities usually, but it will just indicate there'll be some kind of limitations to how you can use them on the battlefield. Alright, so the stats here. So this weapon is a range of 2, and they've got these spears. They can make 3 attacks, strength 3, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. So not a huge amount of damage, but movement-wise, these are going to be really fast. And if we start using that double unrivaled velocity that we read through earlier, that's going to be amazing for these guys, who could potentially move up to 13 inches per move action. So that's really great. Or for the next move action, I should say, sorry. And okay, but they've got another one that we haven't seen, another fighter ability, which is a triple called Impaling Strike. Until the end of this fighter's activation, The next time this fighter finishes a move action within 1 inch of an enemy fighter, pick a visible enemy fighter within 1 inch of this fighter. Allocate a number of damage points to that fighter equal to the value of this ability. Okay, this is more like it. This could be pretty tough. So I guess this is to imagine you get close, you're within 1 inch of an enemy fighter, and then as long as you can see another one who's also within 1 inch of the fighter, the mounted beast could almost turn and make a little sneaky attack with the tail or bite them or something. So that's really cool. And it allocates a number of damage points to the fighter equal to the value of the ability. So 4, 5s or 6s for a triple to immediately get that many damage points. That's really great. And if you imagine these are moving in a lot as well, they can really cover some distance, get close and start nipping away at the enemy. So that's a really great ability for a triple. And so we get those Slickblade Seekers from this set, but there should also be a leader in this. Let's take a look. And yet we can get a Slickblade Hunter Seeker. So this is the leader figure for this set. And this leader fighter is going to come in at 240 points, so quite high. Got the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, the ability rune mark we've previously seen, and also the mounted rune mark. Again, movement of 10 with a toughness 4, but this one can take a huge 35 wounds, so it can take a lot of damage here. And then the weapon, again, range of 2, can make 4 attacks, strength 3, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. So we're not dealing a massive amount of damage here, but again, with that triple ability, that's going to be really useful, and the movement you get from this is great. And this fighter can certainly take some damage there with 35 wounds. And we've also seen this leader ability already, the double violence and excess. So this fighter can make a bonus move or bonus attack action if they take an enemy down. So if they move in one action for their activation, then they attack, take an enemy down, they can either move to get away from the fight or they can attack again. So this is going to be some really great tactics of darting in, making an attack, pulling back out again, going around, flanking the enemy. So you're going to have lots of options here. So this is really exciting, and I can't wait to see how these would play. I think it'd be really fun. So that's our Slickblade Hunter Seeker, and that's the leader that you get in this set. So now let's go on to the next one. Let's go back. Now we're moving on to the Bliss Barb Seekers, and these are the kind of archer, mounted archers, kind of equivalent of the ones we've just seen. Let's zoom in on this one. So again, some really nice miniatures, and this is a great combo, introducing those archers to the mounted beasts. And so these are coming in, again, quite high, 165 points. And we're going to get the faction rune mark, the triple volley of tearing blades, the rune mark for that, and also the mounted beast. They've got a movement of 10, toughness 3, and they can take 25 wounds. And here, 2 weapon options now. First one is the ranged weapon, minimum 3 inches, maximum 15. Can make 2 attacks, strength 3, dealing 1 to 3 on a crit. And the second weapon, if they get up close, is a range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 3, dealing 1 to 3 on a crit. So we've seen the abilities for these fighters already, so I won't go through those again. But 165 points, although they're not doing a lot of damage and they haven't got many attacks, that movement is going to be key, and they can also seem to take a lot of wounds. So again, using them around the outskirts, flanking the enemy, and then in combo with that ranged weapon, these guys are going to be pretty annoying to fight against. So that's really great, but I'm sure we get a leader in this one, and we do. And this is a Bliss Barb Seeker High Tempter, and this one comes in at 220 points, and again, movement 10, toughness 3, taking 35 damage. And the weapons is the same. We've got the archery, so we've got the bow, and we've got the up-close weapon. And the stats for this one, the bow and arrow is the same, 3 to 15, but now we can make 3 attacks, strength 3, and it's gone up a little, dealing 1 to 4 on a crit. And then the up-close weapon, 1 inch, is 3 attacks, strength 3, 1 to 3 on a crit. So not getting an awful lot there, 1 extra attack, dealing a little bit more damage, but only if you get a crit. But you do get the extra wounds, and you get the leadership double ability that we've seen, violence and excess. So that covers the Bliss Barb Seekers. And our next miniature is the Lord of Pain. And if you saw the previous video I did on the box set that they're included in, or this miniature is included in, you'll have seen his abilities and everything already. But I'll go through it again here, just in case you haven't seen that. And again, a great miniature, and he's a leader, and he's going to come in at 220 points, and he's got a movement of 4, toughness 4, and he can take 25 damage. He's got the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and 1 extra rune mark. And this will be for a different ability we haven't seen yet. And his weapon is this huge kind of club or mace, and this is a range of 2. He can make 4 attacks now, strength 5, dealing 3 to 5 on a crit. So this is more like the kind of leader stats now. We can make more attacks. He's got a bit more strength, and that the output, the damage output's a little bit higher. So let's have a look at the abilities for the leader. And again, he gets the fighter ability because he's got the faction rune mark. And then he also gets the violence and excess we've seen on a double. But now we've got a new one, a triple, called Paragon of Depravity. Until the end of the battle round, add the value of this ability to the strength characteristic of attack actions that have a range characteristic of 3 or less made by friendly fighters while they are within 6 inches of this fighter. Okay, so this is one of those abilities where he's empowering all his fighters around him. And again, if you're getting anything really for this here, even if it's a 3, 4, 5 or 6, you add that to the strength characteristic of their attack actions. That's pretty much going to put them quite high, and the chances are above the toughness of their opponents. And let's have a look. Yeah, so they just need a range characteristic of 3 or less. So your archers wouldn't be able to use this. But let's see, made by friendly fighters while they are within 6 inches of this fighter. So again, they've got to be within 6 inches, but not visible. So as long as they're within 6 inches of the fighter, they can benefit from this. So that's our Lord of Pain. Now let's go back and look at the next set that's released today. Now we've got our Shard Speaker of Slaanesh, and I really like this miniature. This one looks really great, and I think this would be a cool one to get and certainly include in your warband. And this would be a leader, and this is a kind of mystic or wizard, and this one comes in at 170 points, and with the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and the mystic rune mark. And this one has a movement of 4, pretty low on toughness, toughness 3, can take 22 wounds. We've got 2 weapons now. The first one is like the magic weapon, so this is a ranged weapon, and that has a minimum range of 3, maximum 7, can make 2 attacks, strength 3, dealing 3 to 6 on a crit. And the next one is the kind of mace or hit with this staff, and that's a range of 2, dealing 3 attacks, strength 3, dealing 1 to 4 on a crit. So this reminds me of the Necromancer from Legions of Nagash, very similar statistics there. But let's see the abilities. So we've seen the double, violence and excess already, and we've seen the fighter ability that a leader can use because they've got that faction rune mark. And now there's another one we haven't seen, a triple, called Tendrils of Unnatural Smoke. Until the end of the battle round, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic to a minimum of 1 of attack actions made by enemy fighters while they are within 6 inches of this fighter. Okay, this can be quite powerful if you can get the Shard Speaker amongst a good amount of the enemy, and they can really reduce those attack characteristics. So the amount of attack dice rolled, they can bring that down by 1 to a minimum of 1. And as long as they're within 6 inches of the fighter, not even visible, then that's really great. So if you can get him behind some cover, he can still use this triple ability to have an effect on the enemy as long as they're within that 6 inches of him. So that's really interesting. I think he would be really cool to include in the warband for sure. And I think out of the 2 leaders, well, all the leaders we've seen so far, this one's my favourite. It looks great, and I like that ability. That's really cool. So let's go back and check out the next one. Okay, now we're moving on to the next set that's released today, and that's the Slangor Fiendbloods. And these look great. Again, if you've played Underworlds, the Diachasm set, you're going to get one of these Slangors, Slake Slash, included in it. Very similar to these. Great miniature. Really big as well. This one's quite tall. It looms really high above them. So it's going to be a lot bigger than the archers we've already seen, for example. So great miniature. And this is the Slangor Fiendblood, coming in at 165 points. And for that, you're going to get the faction rune mark and this 1 extra rune mark here. And we haven't seen that ability yet, so look forward to seeing that. And this has got a movement of 6, as you would expect from a kind of Slangor, and toughness 4, can take 20 wounds. This the weapon here is a range of 1, can make 4 attacks, strength 4, dealing 2 to 5 on a crit. So some really nice stats there. 4 attacks, strength 4, dealing 2 to 5 is really good. 165 points, you kind of expect that, but with a movement 6 and then that ability to take 20 wounds, that's a really great card. And we've seen the double unrivaled velocity ability, but let's look at this triple, which is called Slaves to Impulse. A fighter can use this ability only if there is a visible enemy fighter within 6 inches of them. This fighter makes a bonus move action and must finish closer to the closest visible enemy fighter than they were at the start of that move action. There's a few conditions here. They've got to be visible. The enemy fighter's got to be visible and within 6 inches of them. And then this fighter can make a bonus move action, but they have to get closer to the closest visible enemy fighter. So you can't just pick any. It's got to be the closest, and they've got to be closer to them than they were at the start of the move action. So a triple, that's really getting them in amongst the action. It's also going to tie up some players, so they'll have to do a disengage and then move or attack after that. So there's some options there, but obviously you want to get these troops in there, in amongst it, while you use your kind of mounted troops, I guess, to run around the battlefield, dart in and out. But these are your main fighters. These are the tanks that are going to go in there, deal the damage, take some damage, and take on the enemy full on. But let's see the leader option that you'll get with these three. This is Slangor Fiends, and this is the leader, coming in at 225 points, and it's got the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and the rune mark for the ability we've just seen. He's got a movement of 6, can take 30 wounds with a toughness 4, so this guy can take the punishment. And let's see if he can deal it with a range of 1. He can make 4 attacks, strength 4, dealing 3 to 5 on a crit. So really for this one, you're getting a bit extra ability there to take the wounds. Let's see what this extra ability is as well. We've seen this one already. It's the double violence and excess. So that's the ability for the leader. So I probably wouldn't choose the Slangor Fiends as a leader figure for the warband here. You don't get an awful lot more for those points, apart from the ability to take the wounds. And that ability, I don't know if it's quite worth it, bringing him in. I think you'll benefit from having the others for sure. It's certainly when they're going to get the extra like mystic ability and things like that. But that's this set covered. And this one's 31.50, the RRP. But don't forget, you can get the discount element games with the links I'll put in the description. Our next set that's released today is the Sigmarsch Twinsoles. And here you're going to get lots of options. So you can see there's a nice variety in there. 5 really varied miniatures, all with different kinds of weapons. That whip's really cool. We've got the chains, the clubs, the axe, the kind of mini trident fork. That looks really cool. And that headpiece is just crazy on top. So there's lots going on here. And so with this set, you get 3 fighters and potentially a leader fighter from it. So there's a lot going on here. So you can choose between the Sigmarsch Twinsole with Excruciator Lash, the Sigmarsch Twinsole with Merciless Blades, and the Sigmarsch Twinsole with Sinful Cleaver. And so let's start with the Excruciator Lash. I'm getting a real Harry Potter vibe from this whole army. We've got Excruciator, we've got Seekers, Lords. It's all kind of maybe a little nod to Harry Potter amongst this. I don't know. But here we go. This fighter's got 115 points. And it's got the faction rune mark and one we haven't seen yet. So that's great. Movement is 4 with a toughness 4 and can take 15 wounds. And here the range is 3, making 4 attacks, strength 3, dealing 1 to 4 on a crit. So seems quite high, but you can make 4 attacks. But then that would compare a lot to the Corvus Cabal there as well in strength, toughness. But they are getting those extra wounds. So I suppose for 15 wounds is quite high, but it'll be interesting to see the ability. The next one's a little bit more. So it's 130 points. We've still got the same rune marks, that movement of 4, toughness 4, and the 15 wounds. This time it's up close, so we've got a range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 4, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. So here we are, it's a little bit stronger and dealing a little bit more damage. So that's really good. And the third is 130 points again. And the same stats, same rune marks. We've got movement 4, 4 toughness, 15 wounds. And with this one, it's a range of 1, 3 attacks this time. But the toughness, but the strength is higher. Got strength 5, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. So there we go. There's the 3 different fighters that you can choose from this. But let's look at their abilities next. And we've seen the unrivaled velocity already, but let's look at this new one, which is a quad called Ego Driven Excess. This fighter can make a bonus move action or a bonus attack action. In addition, each time a fighter is taken down by an attack action made by this fighter, this activation, this fighter can make a further bonus move action or bonus attack action. So this is crazy, there's a lot going on here. So with the quad, you can make a bonus move action or a bonus attack action. So that's like, you can definitely do that. But each time you take a fighter down by an attack action you make in the activation, the fighter can make another move or another attack. So if you keep attacking and you keep taking people down, you can just keep going. So that's really great. So towards the end of the battle, when a lot of the enemy fighters are going to be low, taking all the wounds and taking a fair bit of damage, you move these in and they can clean up and do some serious damage in amongst it. So that's a great ability, one I haven't really seen in the warbands I've looked at so far. So that's really good. So I definitely want to be including some of these in there for sure. Okay, so now let's see what leader we're going to get from these. And we're going to get a Sigmarsch Ego Pomp. That's the weirdest name ever for a fighter. And this is the one that you can see with that strange headpiece. And this one's coming in 200 points. And we get the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and one other rune mark that we've seen. This leader's got a movement of 4, toughness 4, and can take 25 wounds. The range weapon is this kind of spiked club, so it's a range of 2 and can make 4 attacks, strength 5, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. And the leader abilities, we've seen these already, it's the double, violence and excess. So for 200 points, this one, it's not brilliant, but you are getting that extra wounds. You've got a strength 5, so you're nice and strong, but to be able to use that quad ability is really good. Again, I don't think I'd use this Sigmarsch Ego Pomp as a leader. I'd go for one of the Mystic leader for sure, but it's an option there if you wanted to. And maybe if you just wanted to play these 5, or maybe have her and then 5 other fighters accompanying them, that might be a fun warband just to try out. Not many fighters, but an option. Okay, let's go back and look at the next one. Right, now we're on to our final set that's being released today, and they're the Mermdash Painbringers. So let's open them up and take a look. Again, some really nice miniatures. These shields are really good with these, and I really like those. And this looks like Vasilak from Dire Chasm, the Underworlds game. So really good looking miniatures. And these ones, from all this, you're just going to get 1 fighter plus a leader. And the fighter is a Mermdash Painbringer, coming in at 140 points with a movement 4, toughness 5, can take 15 wounds. And this one's got the faction rune mark and the rune mark that gives the triple volley of tearing blades. So we've seen both of these abilities already, but let's look at the weapon stats. So this one is like the axe or sword, and it's a range of 1, can make 4 attacks, strength 3, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. So for 140 points, that's not jumping out to be amazing, and the strength certainly isn't good at 3, but they are pretty tough. So if you can get them kind of in front, almost taking some hits early on, they can absorb those. They got 15 wounds, they got a high toughness, and then they can use those 2 decent abilities to move around a bit and also do a little bit of damage. Then that could be quite interesting to play. But let's look at the leader that comes with this set. And this is the Mermdash Painmaster, and he's at 205 points. He's got the faction rune mark, the leader rune mark, and one other rune mark that we've seen. And here he's got a movement of 4, toughness 5, can take 25 wounds. And his weapon is a range of 1, can make 4 attacks, strength 4, dealing 2 to 4 on a crit. 205 points, to get 25 wounds is nice, but he's not really putting out all that much damage. And the leader abilities for this guy I don't think are going to be worth it. I think if you go for a leader, you want them to have more than just 1 leader abilities if it's possible. So I don't think this would be the leader option, unless again you wanted to play all Mermdash Painmaster for narrative, and then that would make sense. But that's it, that's the last one. Let's flick back and have a recap of these. So there we go, we've gone through all the new releases now. I think it's a great day if you're into Slaanesh. Lots to look forward to here, and now you can pre-order it. That's great news. And don't forget, all those links are in the description below to Element Games, where you can save 20%. And also, if you use the code I put down in the description, you can get some extra element crystals, and that's going to save you some money on your next order. So it's well worth adding that code in at the end too. Right, now we'll move on and we'll take a look at some warbands I put together with some of these fighters, and you can let me know what you think. Okay, here's my pick for a Slaanesh warband using the miniatures from the new sets, and I probably wouldn't do this if I just wanted to use them for Warcry, because you would have to get quite a lot of sets here to get these miniatures. I think that'd be quite expensive, and there's a good chance that Warcry are going to see a Slaanesh warband in the future. I'm pretty sure it's got to happen. But if you play Age of Sigmar though, and you want to have that big army, then you could certainly mix and match like this for Warcry too, and that'd be great fun. But let's take a look and see the fighters I've chosen. So I've gone for the Shard Speaker as the leader figure. And as leaders go, this is really low, 170 points. So that's a good start. Got a little bit of range there, and dealing some decent damage, dealing 3 to 6. Only 2 attacks, but that's okay. I think I'd want to be using this certainly for that triple ability, the Tendrils of Unnatural Smoke. That'll really reduce the damage coming and the attacks coming from the enemy fighters. So it's a great ability that I'd want to use. And I love the miniature. I think having this miniature as the leader, it really sets the scene and would be great fun. Then I'm thinking how I'd put these in the different battle groups. And because there's only, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 miniatures here, and you've got to have like a third in the shield, I'd put my leader in the shield, and accompanying her, I would give the Fiend Blood and also the Merciless Blade. So those 2 fighters will act as like bodyguards for the Shard Speaker, and then I'd probably put the 2 archers in one of the other, either the hammer or the dagger, and then I'd put the Slickblade Seekers in the hammer or the dagger too. I'd be looking at kind of moving my leader up with the Merciless Blade and the Fiend Blood protecting them, trying to get into some cover to be able to use that good ability, and then using the strength of those other 2 fighters to maybe try and dominate an objective, create a little bit of a wall, keeping the leader in cover so that she can use that ability and kind of lessen the attacks coming at them. And then I'd want to use those 2 Slickblade Seekers. Both, I'd probably want to split them up and have them like running around, flanking the enemy, zipping in, giving support to that kind of leader and HQ group, or also going after the other objectives and just reducing the enemy slowly, a little bit at a time. And so you've got that really great movement coming from those mounted troops, but you've also got that double ability for the archers, so you're able to get those on the battle and to objectives quickly, but I'd probably let them hang back a bit first and just unleash a little bit of damage from range and then just move in. So this whole kind of tactics with these would be you'd have one like HQ with some flanking maneuvers and then some sneaky range attacks coming from the archers as well. So almost keeping back from the enemy and kind of trying to put pressure on them, but really focusing on the ability of the leader so that the attacks coming at them is going to be a lot less. But you can start nipping away and stealing those objectives, and having that extra movement with the mounts is really going to help achieve that, I think. That's the basic 1,000-point warband, so that comes in at 985, just under 1,000. But let's have a look how we could expand this and include some additional fighters when we get into campaign mode, going up to 1,400. So now playing in campaign mode, we've got up to 1,400 points. I'm not doing anything groundbreaking here. I'm going to add another 2 Sigmarsch Twinsoles and 2 archers. And I've used the Sigmarsch Twinsoles. I'd go for one of each. So the Excruciator Lash, the Merciless Blades, and the Sinful Cleaver. And then that would make a real powerful trio. And then for the battle groups, I might mix things up a little bit here. Go with the Shard Speaker, with the Fiend Blood, and the 2 Slickblade Seekers. And then have the other 2 battle groups as the Merciless Blades and the Archers. So with a lot of these fighters, it's a choice between 2 Archers or 1 Seeker or 1 Painbringer or a Twin Soul. So it's just deciding, do you want more fighters on the field or do you want to go with those ones with the abilities? But I think to get almost to the highest points value as well, it's a good mix there. I think tactically, you could still use those 2 Sickblade Seekers to get around the battlefield really quick, steal some quick objectives. Certainly if you're playing a victory condition where you've got to get to some objectives in each round and you add up at the end, they're going to be really helpful coming on in the first round. And then with the other two, you're going to have the choice of the archers or a really strong group of the Sigmarsch Twinsoles. That's my take on the Slaanesh and the new sets that have come out. And if you've ordered them already, have fun making them. There's some great looking miniatures in there. And if you haven't, don't forget, in the description below are links to save you up to 20% with Element Games. What do you think about the miniatures? Do you like them? What don't you like about them? Which ones would you choose? And which ones would you really want in your band? Especially for the leader. It'd be great to hear which miniature you would take as your leader. Thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.